Father, forgive them, for they do not know what they are doing.
Such a profound saying, so unself-regarding, so full of mercy and unconditional love. But it raises so many questions. Who is the them, the they who do not know what they are doing? Is it the soldiers who proceed to draw lots for Jesus' cloak? Is it the Roman authorities who have acquiesced in his death? Or the religious leaders? Or the people who have called for it? Is it really true that they do not know what they are doing? And why does Jesus not forgive them directly, rather than appeal to the one he refers to as his Father? Does what Jesus say have any relevance for us, for me? Crucifixion is a horrible way to die. Though, unlike Mel Gibson, the gospel writers do not feel they need to assault our sensibilities. Their focus is more on Jesus' death than his pain. Painful, no doubt it was, yet Jesus seeks forgiveness for those involved who are ignorant of the full significance of the one whose death they are bringing about. And although in his own ministry, Jesus calls on us to forgive others, like most Jews of his time and earlier, forgiveness was God's prerogative, a loving embrace and restoration by the one whose covenant was regularly violated. Those who recorded this event for posterity were bequeathing to us their authentic spiritual experience. Those words were also for me. I was given most of Lent to reflect on this verse, and rather than see Lent as a time for giving up something or fasting, I asked myself, what is it that I fail to appreciate about what I am doing for which that forgiveness was sought? I'm sure it's a question that each of us will answer in our own way. But this is what I thought. Here I am, one of over 8 billion human beings, all made in God's image, but also one of a minuscule proportion able to live comfortably in one of the great cities of the world. Retired after teaching for over 50 years in universities, educated in some of the best schools in the world. On how many backs have I had to climb in order to have had such a life? Born into a country whose long-standing native population was decimated to make space for my opportunities. People who were given the vote only in 1962. Fed and housed through the labours of those who often struggled and sometimes failed to make ends meet. Socialised by those who gave preferential treatment to white males. Educated in a system whose understanding of merit was determined by a particular cultural tradition for which I was prepared. Schooled in the techniques that would enable people like me to get ahead. And lucky in employment in the way that luck is enhanced by a certain social preparedness. That was in Australia. And then I came here, to a country created by the marginalisation and decimation of its indigenous population, who were granted citizenship only in 1924. Its strong economy built on the backs of still uncompensated slaves and exploited progeny. Given work I enjoyed in a college named after America's first Chief Justice, himself a slave owner, drinking lots of coffee and wearing clothes produced by people whose labor was taken advantage of, eating food grown and delivered by people living on a fraction of my wage, and necessarily so because otherwise I could not have afforded it. Oh, and it was the love and forgiveness of that one 2 millennia ago that motivated me to take advantage of the opportunities that came my way. Father, forgive me for so rarely appreciating what others have sacrificed for me and for doing so little about it.
Let us hold a moment of silence to name before God the systems we benefit from, the harm we overlook, and the responsibility that is becoming clear to us.
Truly, I tell you, today you will be with me in paradise.
There were two other people recorded as being crucified with Jesus that day, one to his left and one to his right. The Gospel of Luke identified them as criminals. Mark calls them rebels. Whoever they were and whatever their alleged crimes were, in that moment they were in the exact same position as Jesus. The crowd who had gathered there was mocking him, along with the soldiers who had just crucified him, and one of the criminals chose to join in. But the other criminal asked Jesus to remember him. It's interesting to think about how both of these people decided to use their final moments. When the criminal asks Jesus to remember him, Jesus tells him he will be with him in paradise that very day. He says, "Truly, I tell you, today you will be with me in paradise." I was struck by the word truly. Jesus tells us the truth. We can rely on what he says. When we ask him to remember us in our darkest moments, he is there offering us true words. Christ's response to the criminal was to offer him a promise. I was also struck by the idea of being with Jesus. Jesus wants us to be with him, even those society has discarded. This person was condemned to die, but Jesus wanted to be with him. This idea had followed Jesus throughout his entire ministry. He spent so much time with the societal outcasts of the day: sex workers, women, lepers, those with various diseases, people of different races and creeds than his own. His last moments were no different. A dying man, condemned by society, asks Christ to remember him, and he says not only will he remember him, he is with him. This passage is a powerful reminder for me. It doesn't matter how I've been labeled by society. When I ask Jesus to remember me, he will be with me.
For our first moment of response, we are invited to pray for ourselves, to place ourselves in the shoes of that person who said, Jesus, remember me. To connect with whatever need we have for Jesus. For our second time of response, we are invited to pray with someone else, or perhaps with a whole group of people who are being crucified right now. Let us pray together with them.
Woman, here is your son. Son, here is your mother.
Family. What a divisive word. Families we are born into can be a place of love, trust, and safety. an anchor of hope that is always there and has always been there. People we can fall back to no matter where we are, what we're going through, or who we've become. Family can also be a place of pain. Some of us are born into families of chaos, where free thinking isn't safe, self-expression is denied, where we may be neglected instead of loved, insulted instead of supported, and harmed instead of held. But the word family is malleable. Some have families or family members that offer sanctuary, and some create their sanctuary in the form of friends, acquaintances, and community. Those we've chosen and relate to, sometimes more than those we are related to, can be our family, our place of belonging, our help in time of need. Family is who we look forward to seeing, no matter how regularly we see them. Family is the one who answers your 3 a.m. call when you've been up all night with the thoughts of what if. Family is who rejuvenates us, even after difficult discussions. Family is who holds us when we cannot hold ourselves. Jesus, tortured, humiliated, and in his final painful moments, sees his mother and his beloved disciple there at the base of his cross, both his family, one given, one chosen, both standing in shared grief. He tells his mother, "Here is your son." He tells his disciple, "Here is your mother." I'd like to think he's really saying, "Here is your new family. Take each other to lean on in your time of mourning." During difficult times, we fall on those we consider family. Sometimes they are the people we are born to. Sometimes they are the people we find along the way. Family is who becomes our comfort, our shelter, our place of unconditional love. At the cross, Jesus reminds us that belonging can begin even in the midst of suffering and end. Family is not just something we inherit. It's also something we can choose to build.
My God, why have you forsaken me?"
These words illustrate the pure anguish Jesus felt in his final moments. The Son of God himself still felt abandoned when dealing with the unimaginable. No matter how strong we are in our faith, sometimes the darkest moments are just too much and we feel abandoned. This was true for my life once as well. You all know me as perky and happy, but my past had a darker side. When I was 14, my wonderful birth mother died of cancer, and my brother and I lived in a house of horrors with our abusive birth father for a whole year. I had to step up as head of the household as a high school freshman. During that time, I felt abandoned by God and by my mother, even though dying was not her fault. As with the crucifixion, however, my story didn't end in darkness, but in redeeming light. After that year, our aunt and uncle received calls of concern from family friends, and they decided to adopt us and give us a beautiful and loving home. We were given new life. Just as God created beauty in the resurrection after Jesus' darkest moment, God turned our darkness into light by giving us a life more beautiful than we could have ever imagined. That in no way excuses what we went through, and feeling abandoned is valid, as we see that even Jesus felt that way. However, my experience helped me understand that God never truly leaves us alone, even when we are in the darkest parts of our story.
They mock me and they shame.
I am thirsty.
Desiring to drink, craving something. I am thirsty. It starts as an uncomfortable sensation and can lead to a desperate need. I am thirsty, not physically, but emotionally and spiritually. I am thirsty for dignity for all, thirsty for everyone to break away from their indoctrination in order to feel love and not hate, thirsty for everyone to humanize others of different ethnicities, religions, and backgrounds, thirsty for dignity for all, thirsty for the elite to be dethroned, thirsty for the old order to burn and a matriarchal world to rise, thirsty for dignity for all. The death of Jesus Christ finished his work of redemption, atonement, and reconciliation. I am thirsty for a new redemption of this world. I am thirsty for true atonement for the evil beings that lead the violence of this world. I'm desperately thirsty for reconciliation in this global community.
It is finished.
It is finished. The last word Jesus said at the cross was the Greek word tetelestai, meaning finished, the end, debt repaid. The word finished reminds me of when I was a little Methodist. My phone, which was a party line, rang one early morning. It was my grandparents telling us that my mother quietly went to her heavenly home. She suffered from pancreatic cancer. My father, who was truly a blue-collar worker, put together the following words. Your mother was a beautiful rose whose petals closed. Her soul has entered heaven. It was simple, but a perfect way to explaining to a child that her mother finished her life. Although this 12-year-old was filled with confusion, many good family members and church friends stepped in to watch over me and shared their love. When a marriage finishes, there are a lot of dark and scary times, many financially difficult times. Many Sundays I could not attend work as I took on a second job. Working 7 days a week was difficult but necessary. I continually looked for a job situation that would be more beneficial to me and my girls. I found a position and life went on. Moving from Illinois to New York City was another ending, but I wanted to get home to my city lo and behold, a position opened at One Liberty Plaza, NYC, and I went for it. Of course, another end came as I watched the towers in New York City be destroyed. I walked and walked to get out of the area and arrived at my family's home in Queens. However, I saw very determined people rebuild their city, and I volunteered with the families of 9/11, telling the stories of those my company lost, brought me some solace. Despite the disciples' initial disbelief, they began to experience encounters with the risen Jesus. These encounters were transformative as they provided evidence of Jesus' resurrection. Their shock and sorrow turned into joy and conviction as they witnessed the living Christ in their midst. My brothers and sisters, the tomb is open. All are invited to walk with the loving and living Jesus. Amen.
And Adrienne had written. She's in the Upper West Side. She missed her Seder yesterday due to family emotion. She's sorry. And beyond thrilled, here with all of us. Thank you so much. We're blessed to have you here. You're fabulous.
Father, into your hands I commend my spirit.
A reflection by Cassie Heenan. Consider the life of Jesus, a journey that was an outpouring for others from its first breath to this final point. Every word spoken, every person healed, and every mile traveled was a gift given to the Abba's purpose. And now, at the very end, the only thing remaining is Christ's Spirit. In this final moment, we notice the physical and emotional gravity of the scene. The weight of the wood, the pull of the earth, and the judging noise of the crowd. And yet, beneath that noise, Jesus finds the quiet frequency of God's love. And we hear the steady words of a child who has nothing left to hide. Abba, into your hands I commend my spirit. In a world that tells us to hold on tighter and to control more, this is a radical invitation, friends. We carry the weight of 1,000 open tabs in our minds, worries, lists, and the constant static of technology. But as we witness this final breath of Jesus, we pause to consider the trust required to hand our very being over to the power that created the stars. I wonder, where in your body do you feel the gravity of this week? Can you imagine that weight beginning to lift as we look together towards the cross? In the act of commending his spirit to God, Jesus experiences the profound relief of having nothing left to hold on to. Something in the cosmos shifts. The spirit is no longer bound by the gravity of the hill or the limits of a broken body. It is free from the gravity of pain and races towards the warmth of Abba's embrace. This is the energy of a child finally reaching the front door of home. Here's the miracle. As the Spirit of Jesus rises to the Father, it also spreads across the earth to become the very air we breathe. The Spirit that Jesus gives back to God is the same Spirit that is filling this very room. And because Jesus placed his Spirit in Abba's hand, in God's hands, we now know exactly where our own spirits belong. Friends, we have all felt the heavy gravity of this year, the burdens that pin us down. In this stillness, what is the one weight that you are ready to release so that your spirit might also find the warmth of home?
Sometimes it causes me to tremble, tremble, tremble. Were you there when they crucified my Lord? Were you there when they crucified my Lord? Were you there when they nailed him to the tree? Were you there when they nailed him to the tree? Oh, sometimes it causes me to tremble, tremble, tremble. Were you there when they nailed him to the tree? Were you there when they laid him in the tomb? Were you there when they laid him in the tomb? Oh, sometimes it causes me to tremble, tremble, tremble. Were you there when they nailed him to the tree? Sometimes it causes me to tremble, tremble, tremble. Were you there when they laid him in the tomb? Were you there when they laid him in the tomb?
Friends, we leave this place with the echoes of these 7 words and these 7 stories. And we go into the waiting that is Saturday. Into the uncertainty. And at the same time, into the knowledge of companionship, and as Cassie told us, into the release that comes when it's the end and there's nothing else that we can do. As we go, keep these words you've heard close to your heart. Let them work their way through you. The words of thanksgiving and the words of anger. The words of trust and the words of uncertainty. that we then may be blessed this Holy Week to be the signs of salvation, redemption, possibility, and even resurrection. Let us go in peace.